Welcome, my friends, to live streaming coverage of GP Rotterdam. A great pleasure to welcome you to our next round here. And on the screen, as promised, my friends, one of the biggest, if not the biggest champion of this game that we know. It is an absolute dynamite game here between two teams here. Simon Gertzen, we're welcoming to the feature match area Chris Pikula, John Finkel, and Jamie Park. And we can see here Chris Pikula on the screen alongside two titans of magic. This team, absolute showstopper.
And it's starting pretty quickly as well. Voltaic Brawler does that 2 games.
Chris Pikula not mucking around here, off to a very, very strong start with the Weldfast Monitor in addition to the Voltaic Brawler. Thomas Wessling, David Larson, Heidenblatt, and John Haglund. These guys also travelling pretty well so far in this game, but they've got their work cut out for them, my friends, because they have some very big names to overcome. John Finkel, of course, a Hall of Famer, 1 billion Pro Tour top 8s and 1 million of them converted to wins as well. Chris Pikula, very close, flirted with entering the Hall of Fame for a number of years. Unfortunately for him, didn't make it. I know many amongst the Magic community believe him to be a deserving prospect for the Hall of Fame. But as it is right now, he's blasting his way through his opponent with a Harness Lightning and then a huge attack once again coming in for 7.
Yeah, Westling's decoction module created an energy for him, but of course didn't really help him with the board presence. And both Voltaic Brawler and Weldfast Monitor are really difficult to block.
All the modules, of course, serving a pretty useful purpose. A lot of them, a little engine in a can there, but here the decoction module on an empty board can be pretty awkward. I mean, it is kind of spinning the wheels a little bit here, and with Pikula really putting the pressure on his opponent, Vessling's going to have to find something pretty special. Spire Bluff Canal enables what looks like might be a red splash here. Whirler, Virtuoso. First time, got it right first time. Certainly one of those cards that worth splashing here, Simon.
Yes, and this is looking like the energy deck of that team, which doesn't always come together. But in this case, you can already see it's almost like a mini combo. A Roller Virtuoso can make a 1/1 Thopter for 3 energy, and then Decoction Module will trigger again, giving you another energy.
Get enough of these out and you can start to go infinite here. So it'll be interesting to see if Wessling has any more. Pikula, on the other hand, he is dumping his energy into this Voltaic Brawler, which is once again attacking for 4. And it looks like Wessling might be creating an emergency Thopter here.
Yeah, and he will actually generate 2, and that's exactly the interaction I just mentioned with the Decoction Module.
Yeah, for sure. We saw him begin the turn with 5 mana. That Thopter costing 3, but then gaining 1. So putting him on 3 energy. And now a double block on the Weldfast Monitor. Weldfast Monitor, not the most impressive card, of course, just a 3/2 for 3. Can gain Menace at the cost of a red mana here. But still, gets it done.
Yeah, it's very cost efficient, and you want artifacts in your decks anyway. And we have to mention Build to Smash again. Because Weldfast Monitor is in the right color, if you can call it that, to combine with Build to Smash. It is an artifact. So if Chris is holding it here, it would be absolutely devastating.
Whirler Virtuoso, thinking about blocking. And that's the way it goes. Pikula with nothing else in hand. I can see a couple of lands there. We're going to see a forest, now 5 mana. Is it a tiger? It is a tiger. Riparian Tiger generating a further 2 energy for Chris Pikula. Pikula, of course, he's got that magic number of top 8s. 3 PT top 8s, 4 GP top 8s. The last PT top 8 he had was in 1998, Simon Gertzen.
Yeah,
I was in grade 3.
If we're talking old school players, Chris Pikula certainly qualifies.
Absolutely, and flying the flag of integrity and sportsmanship from the very beginning to right to the very end, Chris Pikula, now a family man, of course. Many people would have seen him in the documentary, brilliant documentary, Enter the Battlefield, produced a number of months ago. Whirler Virtuoso number 2, Simon. I'm sure you're not surprised to see that.
That explains why Westling was not too concerned losing his first Virtuoso in combat.
No, we didn't really see him wrestling with the idea of getting rid of that Whirler Virtuoso the first time. What do you think of Thriving Turtle, though? This is a card that's great on defense and can also rack up some damage after a while.
Yeah, and I don't really see it as an aggressive card in this deck. It's a cheap energy enabler, a cheap blocker, and it combos with Decoction Module to generate 3 energy for the cost of 4+1.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Westling go all the way down to 0 energy just briefly beforehand, and now look at this, he's back up to 8. So this deck does seem to be able to put on a real performance if, Zimon, and only if, it is able to it's able to squeeze enough breathing room for it to do that here. So Westling here now, 2 Thopters, the Virtuoso and the Turtle, but of course, I mean, we can have 3 more 3 more Thopters come down at a moment's notice here.
It should be 4 more, right? Because of how...
Oh, which only costs 2, yeah, of course, if you want to
Effectively,
think about that. Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
Of course, but you can't make a... You will not be able to make a Thopter if you have only 2 left. So
3. Oh, mate, I was right. Very odd occurrence, my friends. I'm glad you've been able to join us here for this once-in-a-lifetime event as the Riparian Tiger comes in. Of course, it's been our great pleasure to host this stream for you around the world, wherever you are choosing to join us this afternoon, this evening. We'd like to thank you for that. It's been a great pleasure to have your company throughout this team-sealed event as Westling considers his blocks.
one of us teaches math. The other just studied it.
We'll let you figure out who's who, my friends. Thriving Turtle might be thrown under this tiger-driven bus here.
Not literally, because that can also happen.
No, that could also happen. I mean, there's trains, there's trams, there's buses, there's ferries, there's monorails, all sorts of stuff going on in the lush and vibrant world of Kaladesh. But right now, it's a tiger beating up a turtle. Going to trample across for 1 by the look of things. Or was it 3? I think we saw the activation of the tiger there. Indeed,
Yeah.
Westling goes down to 3. And now Pakula dumps his hand with a module closing things out.
We've seen a lot of modules in these games, or is it just me?
No, we've seen. I mean, the animation module that's now joined the party has come down, or is it?
No, this is
no,
fabrication
sorry, it's
module.
the fabrication module. Has come down here, a way for Pakula to grow those creatures whenever he gains some energy, and we've seen energy generating creatures in his deck already. And there's Westling as well now with his decoction module helping to power out those extra Thopters there.
Chris has to be careful not to run out of steam here, because the engine that Westling has going is very, very powerful.
And I really like the way Westling here has deployed his resources. It's been very clear that he's been in a tough spot from the beginning, and I like the way that he's really trying to turn the corner. He's not out of the woods yet, but Pakula could still find something here.
The big question is, how do you deal with the tiger? And also how aggressive is Chris with the tiger? Does he maybe wait a turn to make it 6/6 again? Given that Westling almost has to trade Thopter, each Thopter for a point of damage.
Yeah, the tiger having trample really makes things difficult, and we see Westling here holding back what looks like the 4 Thopters, and I think forgetting that the Seed Sculptor has reach.
It's an easy mistake to make.
Yeah.
Westling focusing on how many creatures he needed back on defense, and then the shortcut is to just attack with the rest.
Yep.
Which in this case was 1 Thopter, which was the worst number possible because he just lost it basically for nothing. He just lost it.
Just threw it away to the High Spire Artisan. Yeah, we've seen this card. So the 3 mana 0/3 with Fabricate 1, obviously coming down as a 1/4. Tidy little play there for Pakula, especially with the fact that a 1/4 reach it lines up so favorably against those Thopters there.
Picula was also just already ready.
Oh, he was ready for it.
So
he was so ready for it.
It's a big psychological swing as well.
Oh, mate, he's getting up in his brain zone. That's where Pakula's aiming at. Westling's just going to chuck them all in front of the tiger.
Yeah, and this was the big question. Is Chris content with attacking with a 4/4, or does he take his time to attack with a 6/6? Now, what do you actually want to achieve? Do you get rid of 4 flyers? No, in this, if you make a token, then you definitely want to kill the Virtuoso, but it's not that good of a trade actually.
So just to clarify here, Pakula did make an energy with his fabrication module, which then put a +1/+1 counter on his tiger. So trading away the tiger for a number of his opponent's creatures there, and that Whirler Virtuoso bites the dust. Both players with limited cards in hand. I think Westling on 2 and Pakula on 1. So Pakula here does have the engine to grow any of his creatures that he chooses with the fabrication module.
And the fabrication module is a really nice combo with Fairgrounds Trumpeter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you really get going, that's another way to grow a huge, or actually two huge creatures.
Yeah, that's true. Popping +1/+1 counters on one creature, and then the elephant gets a bit bigger in the form of the trumpeter. Westling, on the other hand, with his decoction module, a couple of options open up for him with this card as well.
Yes, and you will see him play a lot of enters the battlefield type of creatures. Interesting attack here. Now a 2/2 attacking into the 1/4 with reach.
Kujar Seed Sculptor, one of these cards that's useful to bounce with the module, the unsummon activation of the module here.
Chris already knows that Wrestling knows about the reach now. So he's much more unlikely to block because he knows it's not just an oversight this time.
Yeah, that first time, though, that would have felt so tasty. And here's the Trumpeter, as you mentioned. Fairgrounds Trumpeter.
I saw it in Chris's hand earlier, so that wasn't me just being psychic.
Mate, take it where you can get it. Looks like Kujar Seed Sculptor's going to come back to the hand. And now we see the Trumpeter grow. Already a 3/3, and that Kujar Seed Sculptor, sorry, the High Spire Artisan is already growing and growing, a 2/5.
And I think it's important here to grow both creatures simultaneously. So the
Trumpeter does trigger off itself.
Yes,
that's important to notice.
It's just in a world of servos and thopters and removal and bounce, it's usually not the right play to put all your eggs in one basket.
Oh, no, absolutely not. No. You're trying to introduce those eggs into as many baskets as possible. You're like a chicken with bad aim. You want a diversified egg portfolio. It's very important in these days. 4 mana for Thomas Wessling. And it's Hunt the Week now. Yeah, he doesn't want to muck around with this this Fairgrounds Trumpeter at all, and he's happy to take the Thopter to the next level. Now as a 4/4 flyer. Build your own Sarah Angel, says Thomas Wessling. He's only on 3.
Yeah, but he of course doesn't want to make all his Thopters into 2/2s because that would achieve nothing against the High Spire Artisan. But now at least it's a weird kind of match because one person is pumping a creature for 4 mana, the other one is investing 6 mana each turn. Chris is not drawing anything, so he's happy to do that.
Yeah, and he just wants to slam his fist down on F6 here as we see him activate the module and then ship the turn.
But Wrestling, on the other hand, he's not going to just make this play over and over again. It's not potent enough, not powerful enough.
Down comes Ether Theorist. Going to expound some theories about what he thinks is going on in the world as we see Mountain, the final card in Wrestling's hand. So both of these players hell-bent. They'll be knocking on the top of their decks and hoping for some good luck here. Both of them with a module in play as well. I'm curious to see how things pan out from here. Pakula, the first one, given an opportunity to draw a card.
These modules are really interesting, or a mirror of modules, because it means that drawing lands is not as bad as in other matches, where if you draw 2 lands in a row, the game can just swing. Here you always get something out of your mana.
Here's a Hunt the Week, so a nice tidy little removal spell for Pakula once again. And this High Spire Artisan has grown to absolutely epic proportions here. It's a 4/7 with reach. Important to note.
It's not going to pose much of a threat, though, because Wrestling can always chump log it, but then save his creature with his module. So one large creature for Peculiar is actually not going to be too threatening, unless it has trample.
Super stalled out this board at the moment as we see now a potential attack with the Artisan. I don't like this attack. That Kujar Seed Sculptor is just dying to get back into Wrestling's hand. What a great card to have in conjunction with the Decoction module.
Yeah, I think this attack is unnecessary because you will take some damage this turn. Okay, but on the other hand, you have maybe the out. This maybe gives you the out to draw, let's say, a removal spell and just win the game on the spot.
What an absolute ordeal that was for Thomas Wessling, finding the 6 on that 12-sided die. But he finally manages to, and keeps the card on top with the other Theorists. So that's good news for him. In come the Thopters now. 2 damage in the air, and Pakula hit down to 16.
A line I would have liked here from Wrestling would have been not to scry, because then you have 2 creatures that you are not unhappy to return to your hand with the module, and you don't die to a single removal spell. Now Westling dies through a single removal spell, and I think he also missed a point of damage with his sequencing.
Curious sequencing here from Westling, choosing to put the +1/+1 counter on after it saw the Thopter had got in for damage. Pakula now. He's splashing black as well off a Blooming Marsh. Be interesting to see what that's for. And we're going to see a repeat of the repeat performance here from the Seed Sculptor.
I think if he drew Unlicensed Disintegration, this just wins him the game.
And, Simon Gertzen, how do you do it, my friend? Unlicensed Disintegration now, targeting the Ether Theorist. And that'll do it. Chris Pakula choosing his moment. Wow, a masterful little bit of navigation there.
Yeah.
From the old pro and managing to take down the game. Once again, I mean, Simon, we saw this game open up in very, very aggressive terms and then settle down for a bit of a bumpy ride. But at the end of the day, Pakula pulls it out of the bag. Well done.
It's, from a strategic point of view, this 3 to 16 life total discrepancy or 3 to 18, you can really leverage that into more resources for yourself. And Chris basically did this by just buying time, and he knew about his outs with the opponent on 3, whereas for the opponent it's just much more difficult.
So these guys are going to hit their sideboards, as are John Finkel and David Larson Heidenbland. These guys will be happy, the Americans, to have picked up 2 wins, 1 apiece. But we move on now to our final feature match table C. And an Angel of Invention is the last-ditch effort for John Haglund to try to get back into this game, as we see the 4-3 Flying Vigilance lifelink rumble over and slap Jamie Park upside the head. Renegade Freighter and Foundry Screecher joining the Angel. Nice stabilization play for Park, or for Haglund here, but Park still with a billion creatures. See if he can wriggle his way into a W here.
Park is playing a deck that looks built around Inspire Charge. In fact, I see one in the graveyard. Very, very aggressive white-red deck. Doesn't have it here, and is still taking 4 in the air, maybe even more now. I don't think Haglund can afford to do that, but it would probably be a good idea to threaten a somewhat fast clock here.
Well, that Foundry Screecher now a 4-2.
Exactly. So attack for 8. It is actually a 2-turn clock.
Park sitting on what looks like just 1 card in hand. Jamie Park, no stranger to success at the highest level of the game, and I might add, an absolute ripper bloke as well. 3 PT top 8s in addition to 4 GP top 8s. So this guy really knows how to party at the top tables of Magic. But an absolutely rock-solid dude. We're going to see the Freighter suited up here. It's going to attack as a 6-5. And the Angel of Invention is going to get in there as well. So Haglund really nailing his colours to the mast. He's wanting to get very aggressive.
Interesting choice. I understand that the power toughness combination of the Freighter is even more impressive than the Screecher. But getting in for 8 when the opponent is on 16 is also almost the perfect scenario. And it would keep you better equipped for defensive tasks.
So Renegade Freighter pumped once thanks to the Angel of Invention, and then pumped twice thanks to its own ability. We're going to see Renegade Freighter on the other side woken up. The Glensleeve Artisan jumps aboard the train. Toot toot, he says, all aboard. And the really useful engine's going to jump in front of the other one by the look of things.
It's actually quite funny how Renegade Freighter is one of the best ways to deal with opposing Renegade Freighters.
Yeah.
Of course, now you have to keep the Angel of Invention in mind here. There is an extra point of toughness that you have to consider, and power.
Park obviously no stranger to this. As we see, looks like there's going to be a huge horrific train crash here. Yes, and that's going to do it. There we go. Away go the Freighters.
Taking 6 from the Angel plus Trample. And the Wisp-Weaver Angel, really nice addition there.
Yeah, untapping the Foundry Screecher there, a nice way to recoup a little bit of defense here. I mean, Haglund on 9 looks to be turning the corner off the back of this Angel of Invention. Really, really impressive card, this.
But it's not only the Angel
Snare
of
Thop to
Invention.
come down. Sorry, go on.
It's also that Jamie just didn't put the finishing touch on this board state. I don't know if he was forced maybe to cast the Inspire Charge very early, or if it got maybe discarded or something like that. But that would have been the card that he needed.
And Park reads the writing on the wall after getting his opponent down to 1. Angel of Invention proving its worth as a card that can really get you out of a narrow squeak. And despite a huge train crash, Haglund managed to get back over the line. So well done indeed to him. He's the only person on his team who's managed to pick up a victory against this team of superstars. As we head back to Chris Pakula now, off to the races once again with a Voltaic Brawler. Looks like Ether Theorist has come down for Westling. Both of these cards are really top tier options in Limited.
Yes, but Voltaic Brawler is the much more scary one to play against. I love Westling's deck. It's just
it seems super sweet.
If you have the choice, it's usually still better to bash people's head in rather than being too cute with all kinds of synergies and 3 colors.
Voltaic Brawler comes in, looks to be doing exactly that, smashing Westling's head in, and now it's Thriving Grub. So nice little 1-2 punch from Chris Pakula. Westling, on the other hand, happy to make a Thop to end of turn. Still 2 energy in his pool. Are we going to see a scry happen here? No. Just draw a card. These players this weekend have been playing their cards very close to their chest, Simon. Usually we get a better look at what's going on in the hands here. See a couple of lands hiding out there. Look at that, just teasing us, just tantalizing us.
At this stage, I like not activating the theories because you get a 1/3 blocker out of the deal. And also, in this early to middle game situation, you do usually want additional lands, or you want to draw at least a certain amount of lands to guarantee that you will be able to deploy your spells.
Attune with the other comes down, 2 energy and a basic land for Westling. He plays his 4th land. Green decks have found it pretty easy to splash for a 3rd color in this format, Zimon. Between Attune with the Ether, there's obviously other cards that are going to help you with that as well. So obviously, after stapling Rampant Growth onto the back of a 3/2 in Wild Wanderer, green decks are going to have an easier time of it.
But also you do find the rare dual lands just in your pool from time to time. There are ways to make splashes happen, but in such a powerful, consistent environment, you will usually find at most one of the 3 decks that splashes a color. And that's usually for very specific strategic reasons.
One of those reasons is on the battlefield in front of you, Whirl of Virtuoso. Chris Pakula untapping, 3 energy in his pool. Got the option to slam in for 7 here. We'll see how he wants to navigate this.
You have to also consider that there are 3 open mana on Westling's side of the board. He didn't really do anything because Attune with Ether is, well, not a board impacting card.
Decides to go for it. In they come.
Okay, so you do spend both energy. Think that's smart.
Oh, mate. If you're going to go for in for a penny, in for a pound, says Chris Pakula. Across for 7. What do you got? Taking the fight to the enemy, asking the hard questions, and we'll see what Westling's response is. As you said, Zimon, 3 untapped mana. What are you thinking about here?
3 untapped mana, but first you have to realize that there is 1 more Thopter coming. That's just something that's obvious. And then Chris, if he was planning to use a combat trick or a removal spell, there is definitely Ether Trade Winds, which could mess up those plans pretty significantly.
Not very difficult to maneuver yourself into a position on the back of those Ether Trade Winds to make sure it's a favourable exchange, return a permanent that's going to benefit you in the long run. Ooh, and look at this. Appetite for the Unnatural is a nice way to break up that double block there. And that's a tidy little, not quite 2 for 1. Close to it, however. Going to see a scry from the other theorist. His final gift to the world before departing to the graveyard.
Nah, this is not a blowout by any means because your opponent just spent a card to deal with one of your Thopters, which you almost got for free with the Attune for Ether.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it was trading a card and 2 life here for 3 energy counters. as we see the Thopter being replaced by the Whirler Virtuoso. Both players with no energy in their energy reserves here.
Westing holding a lot of lands, which could be problematic. Also, his combo deck, if I can call it that, is not really coming together, because Whirler Virtuoso and energy production is not sufficient in this high-powered environment.
5 mana now for Westling. And here's a Cultivator of Blades. Very curious to see the choice that Westling makes about the Fabricate now. A 5 mana 1/1, of course, and Fabricate 2 is going to see 2 servos enter the battlefield. So 5 mana for 3 1/1s. However, when the Cultivator of Blade attacks, it gives the rest of the team a boost to power and toughness equal to its power. So at the moment, that's just +1/+1. We've seen it close out some games earlier today, Zimon, as a 3/3.
But it's not a good defensive option here, even though it's 3 creatures for the cost of 1 or for the cost of 1 card.
And look at this, once again, Pakula smashing in there. Now a haste creature, generating a little bit of energy, giving itself haste, getting in there. The Spontaneous Artist smashing in for 3 as well, in addition to its other aggressive red brethren here.
And how do you block the Brawler? Do you block it with 2 1/1s? Are you now willing to part with your Whirler Virtuoso? What do you do with the 3/3? You're on 12, so it's not all over. But this is getting closer and closer. If Chris is holding a Blossoming Defense, some of these blocks could end up looking really, really bad. Virtuoso plus a 1/1 is actually a really nice block on Spontaneous Artist.
Yeah, we might see that that exact block take place. Westling considering it, certainly. Might be consulting with a teammate here. One of the hidden advantages, well, not even hidden, one of the very obvious advantages of Team Sealed. You can confer to make sure you're not making any huge mistakes.
Yeah, this way, with this kind of block, you get the most value out of your creatures. And the Thriving Grubs are only a 3/2, unless Chris finds some more energy to pump it.
So Pakula killing off the Virtuoso rather than that Thopter here.
Obviously.
So Westling left with 2 Thopters to Pakula's 1 Thriving Grubs. Westling's going to poke in for 2 here. Racing Pakula is going to be a pretty tricky prospect. We have to see a strong follow-up play here for Westling. It's a Cobra. The Nanam Cobra here. Done a lot of work this weekend. We've seen this card as a pretty useful utility card. More or less unblockable. More or less unattackable.
Not unblockable, but depending on the situation, there are some cards you really don't want to trade with.
Well, it really overperforms against the green decks. Mm-hmm. It really overperforms against these decks that gum up the ground so effectively, getting in with Rhinos and Tigers, as we've discussed. The Cobra can be a nice little evasive body.
I've been a huge fan of Death Touch in Limited for years. It's I think it's very underrated because you can so easily get basically a removal spell on a stick.
High Spire Artisan coming in for another 1 damage here as Pakula chooses to fabricate onto the Artisan with the +1/+1 counter. Westling does have more power than Pakula here. So he comes in for 2.
You might remember that this is very similar to the game 1 between these two that we saw, but the difference was that Westling was on 3 instead of 8. So now he has a lot more breathing room to maneuver.
A result from the other table, you can see Johnny Magic has gotten up against David Larson Heidenblad. So obviously John Finkel, probably just through pure mastery of the game or a very aggressive deck, has managed to seal the deal.
I wonder why they put him in the middle.
Curious. A curious decision indeed. Yeah, lots of ins and outs to these sorts of tournaments. Hunt the Week now. It's going to grow that Artisan up again. Lots of ins and outs to these tournaments. Players not given the option to choose where they sit on a round-by-round basis. They have to nominate players A, B, and C at the very beginning of the tournament. And a lot of levels as to where you put who you think to be your best player, who you think to what you think to be your best deck, your worst deck, which player you know you're going to have to carry and drag, kicking and screaming into the top 4.
Also, what do you expect your opponents to do with these choices? Clearly, A and C is a symmetric choice. There would only be psychological differences, but the middle seat is crucial for team tournaments.
So Pakula drawn a card. You see his leg nervously thrashing about. He's obviously got a decision to make. Ships the turn. Didn't see the card he drew. A mountain in hand. Another one looks to be a non-land card.
But could be attuned with ether, so that would actually not be.
No, it is. I think it is.
Not be so helpful.
Very, very difficult to see what that card is.
I'm pretty sure it's attuned with ether. So Westling is threatening to just close out this game with the Gearseeker Serpent. Oh wow!
Hunter Week's going to expedite that process.
That's an aggressive decision.
Yeah, and Pakula staring down the barrel of a gun here as the Thriving Turtle grows to become a 1/4. Gearseeker Serpent getting in for 6 and an additional 1 damage from the servo, and that's going to do it. Chris Pakula happy to pack him up now for game number 2, and Westling will be very happy with that victory. Let's see John Finkel here offering a word or two of advice to Jamie Park.
You also see that they are currently sideboarding and discussing the sideboarding options. So that means that Jamie tied up the game. One game 2, so to speak.
So this one might come down to the wire here. Really, we've got John Finkel putting his team at an advantage. It's only going to require one more W from Chris Pakula or from Jamie Park, and that's going to seal things up good and proper, finish things off. And I tell you what, I don't think there's anyone you'd want sitting next to you other than John Finkel when you're making some tough sideboarding decisions here. This man has proven himself time and time again, my friends. Since the beginning of the round, I've actually been downloading his Magic CV. Still gigabytes to go, but I can give you the highlights. 9 GP top 8s, of course. Obviously, people with lots of GP top 8s tend to convert quite a number of them to PT top 8s. Often we see people with, quite a few GP top 8s also find themselves into the top 8s. And it's here he's got 16.
So the conversion is
Pro Tour top 8s.
Almost by a factor of 2.
Yes. So if he makes it to the top 8 of this GP, we expect him to see in the top 8 of two more PTs in the near future. Of course, Johnny Magic still making his way to tournaments every now and again, playing in events here and there when the fancy strikes him. The glory days of Magic in the 90s, I'm sure, is something that he's very fond of thinking back to, and it's good to see him making appearances still at the highest level of Magic here, there, and everywhere.
And you can tell that some of the core skills, especially in Limited, you don't lose them.
No. It's like riding a bike, mate.
The mechanics might be different, the creatures, the spells might be different, but the game itself, the core structure of what is important, how to make the best educated decisions. This is where John, but also everybody on his team is really, really experienced in.
And you can see both players in the middle slot, John Finkel and his opponent there, Heidenblood. Both of them have moved to the side now to consult with their opponents. Obviously, John is confident in Jamie Park's capacity to deliver here. Maybe he feels like he might have to help carry Chris Pakula through across the finish line.
There's an ongoing joke about John just teaming up with Chris to bring him back to the Pro Tour, right? Of course, that's not the only motivation for playing in a Team GP.
Look, I'm happy to nail my colours to the Chris Pakula mast and say that he's a Magic player I have enormous respect for, someone, in my opinion, who should be in the Hall of Fame, and someone who I really think has had a lot of bad luck to fall off the ballot and be out of the running, and I really do wish him all the best in getting back on top of things. As you see, Thriving Grubs opening up the game very nicely for him here. High Spire Artisan as well. Thomas Westling has a response, however, on his third turn. And it's the Thriving Rhino. This card's absolutely top of the line here in terms of green commons.
Yeah, especially how it's good at holding down the fort here, or at least threatening a trade with the grubs.
Harness Lightning means that there's something different written in the stars for this Rhino. Westling will have to settle for the 2 energy that the Rhino generated here.
But the Harness Lightning
gets in for 4.
Effectively cost 4 this turn. So it's at least a tempo gain, a bit of breathing room for Westling if he has another creature to follow up with, maybe a 4-drop.
Is Westling missing a land? No. Good to see that we are going to have a game of Magic here with 3 mana left open after that Thriving Turtle. I can see a Hunt the Weak in the hand of Thomas Westling. Pakula fearlessly going towards his attacks here. And in he comes.
Thriving Turtle is not that scary to attack into.
3 mana now. And it's a Fairground Trumpeter. No triggers as of yet, but Pakula will be looking for ways to generate some +1/+1 counters to get that Elephant rough and ready.
His deck is built to put +1/+1 counters on his creatures. So just imagine and attune with Ether, and then the grubs will grow.
Riparian Tiger.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of shadowing there on the playback on the video, but it seems to be
too much action.
Is it Chris moving too fast?
It's just Chris moving too fast. Thomas Westling and Chris Pakula here, whizzing around at the speed of sound here. Look at them go.
Yeah, we'll look into that, but for now, this is the games that Finkel's team has to win to end up victorious, and they've already lost a round, so that's maybe not too irrelevant here.
No, certainly important to think about as we head into the home straight here for day number 1. Of course, only teams that have X and 2 record will go to day number 2, so it's important to stay with your head as far above water as possible. But of course, Pakula and Park and Finkel will be really on their opponents to find a way.
Yeah. The cut is quite brutal at these events because it's a no-buy environment. But if you make it to day 2, it's great. You get to play another team sealed deck, reshuffle the cards basically, and then everything is possible.
So Riparian Tiger coming down for Westling, and then immediately a Hunt the Weak is